Hey, this is Dr. Pete Terzop and wanted to use the video here to talk about some issues. Well, mainly one issue, but the one of them is the advice or feedback on assignments. So every semester I start off, I have students who I'm not going to say linger, but they turn in assignments because it's more of a clockwork or checklist type event, and I've had videos on that about checklist students. But eventually they start saying, well, wait a second, I'm not seeing my grade improve, or they think that grades improve over time simply because they just do that. Like some professors start off low and they go higher. In theory, that should be true, but it's because you're reading the feedback to get a better grade. It's not just because the professor says, well, we're getting close to the end and the grades are lower, so I better raise them up. Some professors do that. I mean, that is a fact. But having said that, that's not the concept. So if you are not looking at the feedback, obviously there's going to be some issues. And here's where it all comes down. Most professors do give feedback. It's not like the old school when I would get papers back and there's a grade and there might be a couple red check marks here and there, and that was it. And then if you want to talk to the professor, good luck, because it might be a 2 to 3 week schedule, and to go to their office and talk to them and do all that. So that's old school. And maybe every now and then you'd have a more of an English professor type that would, grade the paper more rigid or rigorously. But for the most part, it was pretty much very limited feedback. So now we get more feedback. There are some professors that simply don't do their job, and that is a fact. But for most part, most of them will do their job, and the feedback is there. But here's the catch. You have to read it. You have to watch it. You have to actually look at it, study it. It's not just a glance and say, okay, that's good, or glance and I'm not going to do anything to improve. You have to read and reflect on it, or to process it. The professor said this, and this is what I need to do. And here's the other part. I've done videos on this. It doesn't matter what the last date said, the last wife or husband said you're married to, or what they did. Nobody wants to hear about that. The reality is, okay, here's the reality. The reality is, this is what's happening in this class. And the professor may have a quirk or a process or something they look for. That's his life. We all do it. They may be more focused on the quality of your research. Some may be more quality or focused on the organization of it. And some might just not care at all, and you get a pass, and then you go, well, the last professor didn't care. Nobody cares what the last professor did. I don't care. I don't like saying it. I've never said it as a student, because the minute you say that, you start getting the professor saying, well, if you like that professor so much, then go back to that professor and take this course. Well, that's right, you can't, because we're in here and we're taking this course. So I'm trying to express to that is that if the professor has some quirks, like they like citations a certain way, yeah, there's the right way to do it in APA. That's what I try to teach. But there are some professors who are quirky. Like they had one recently at a school that they wanted quotes. Everything had to be a quote. Well, that's because the professor was lazy. I mean, let's just call it what it is. And they did not want to look up things. They did not want to check it. They did not want to see if it was turn it in or safe assign or whatever. That's why that professor did it. So is that the right way? No. Are they teaching wrong? Yes. But go with the quirk. Know that what's the right way to do it. And when the class is over, you can go back to it. But that doesn't give you an excuse to say, I'm failing or doing worse because of that quirk. You just have to adapt to it. That's the facts of life. If they like headers, then use headers. If they like organized paragraphs, use organized paragraphs. If they don't care, then do whatever you want, okay? But the key is focusing on that feedback. And that feedback should be, if there's not feedback, you have a legitimate complaint. You should go to the administration. You should say something, because that professor, it should be a professional and should be giving that feedback. Having said that, what I find is a lot of times students don't look at the feedback, and this is how I know. The reason I like videos in a lot of ways, it takes me a lot more time to use them, but when I go back and say, well, Bob, Lisa, I understand your concerns, but did you watch the video? Well, yeah, yes, I did. Okay, well, that's weird, because the track number, the one that counts how many times the video has been watched, I know I made it, I know it's been posted, and it's only to you, and if it says 0, that's a good sign you didn't watch the video, okay? So always go back and read the feedback and watch the videos, or however the professor does it. Once that's done, then you can go back and say, well, I didn't understand this part of it. Let me be clear, specifically. 1, this is what I don't understand. Do not sit there and say, well, I didn't understand the video. Well, what do you mean? You understand how to use it? You understand how to push play? What do you not understand? And also another thing too with videos is you can actually pause the button and then think about it, take notes, and move on. You can actually do this, or you can save the link and use it later. And you can watch it multiple times. So I understand it's not easy. Like click, click, click. I'm done. Glance, and then we become attorneys and argue what each written word means. The problem with videos for some students that are checklist students is it's very comprehensive. So it covers so many things they can't really target them and complain and spend more time worried arguing about the grade versus actually correcting it. So what I'm going to suggest again is it happens every semester, and I do this video periodically. If you get feedback, watch it or read it. Then, if it's not enough, go to the professor and say, I don't understand this specifically, I need more help, and ask for that support and help. And that professor should give that to you. But don't go back and say, well, I like videos more than written, and my last professor did videos. Or I like written, and I don't like videos. Well, then turn the closed captioning on, okay? I mean, my point being is, take the feedback for what it is, and then develop from it. It's one class, you'll get through it, and you'll move on. Because one day, you're going to be in charge, or you're going to be in a group, and someone's going to pull that with you. And you're going to say, I'm the boss, and this is how it goes. I don't mind input, but this is how we got to proceed, because you're the expert. And as much as we like to talk about teams, and as much as we like to talk about servant leadership, and I believe in these things, there comes a point where someone's got to be the leader and say, this is how we go ahead. Okay, this is how things move forward. So that's not a quick video, but one that kind of explains that concept of feedback and a variety of other secondary issues. I appreciate that, and thank you for the topic idea.